All right, here we go. 1/2 inch. I'm usually a lot more neater than this, but I'm trying to do it quick because I know you guys want to get going on yours. Those are the 7/16 and the little 5/16 one over here. We're gonna see if we can get rid of this tube. It's in my way, garbage. And then we're gonna pry this white plastic part off. It came off relatively easy. And then that's what it looks like inside. Now the impeller doesn't look terrible. Brand new fancy Canon M50 camera that I don't know how to use. But that's what it looks like. All right, we're gonna get rid of that. And we're also getting rid of this gasket. So there's gonna be one gasket with a big hole in it. That's the one on top. Then the stainless steel wear plate. Oh, duh. Don't forget to take off the little keyway. That's for the impeller. Wear plate. And another gasket. Now you'll see that there's a little hook in it, in the top part here. Just pay attention to that. I mean, you can't really screw it up because there's alignment holes. You'll see. It's simple. Just take your time. Now that's really quite clean. A lot of them are not that clean. So take your time, clean it all up really good. This one looks really pretty good. Now we're gonna dig into our new pump kit here. Try to do this real fast and furious like. All right, so there's a whole bunch of gaskets in here, right? Mainly you're only going to use the ones with the hooks on them. See, some of these don't have hooks on them. This one does, this little hook up here. So we're getting rid of that, that. And we're going to keep this one with the big hook in the top, this one with the hook in the top, and you can see this wear plate also has a hook in the top. And there's a little sharp edge. Obviously that's going to go down because if your impeller were to ride on that, it wouldn't work. So that goes down. Just put it back together the same way you took it apart. This one first, there's an alignment pin. You can't screw it up. Slide that on down. Then we're going to put the wear plate on. And then we're going to put this other top gasket on. Push it all down nice. Find the impeller. Here's your little parts bag. I usually have a knife in my pocket. Find your little parts bag here. It's got, let's see, some stuff that you will not be using. Some big O-rings. We're not going to be needing them. There's our new alignment sleeve that goes in there. Some other stuff. This little orange little O-ring looking thing. There's an oil passage right here. You'll see it. We can pick that out and put the new one in. Just got to be very careful that you don't knock that off when you put the upper back on. So make sure that's really good in there. Some other stuff we're not going to need. We're going to need this big black O-ring thing. And the key. So here's a new keyway that's going to go in place on the flat side of the shaft. You'll see that. And then there's a notch inside the impeller, right? Easy enough. That goes on over it. Just gotta line it up. It goes on. See, now it locks it to the shaft. Now, we're gonna get some soapy water. I've got Dawn dish soap here. Okay, so I've got some Dawn dish soap here. This is just water and dish soap. And what that is going to do, that's going to help us lubricate things. It's just a lubricant. So we're going to spray the new impeller really good, inside the new housing really good. And that's going to go back on the same way we took it off. So we're going to just turn clockwise on this shaft. It really doesn't matter. But as we're pushing down the new housing, we're going to turn the shaft clockwise as we push, and then that'll help get things seated. Okay. Now, everything looks good. We're going to put our nuts and washers and screws back in, and we're done. We're back in business. It'll be time to put the upper back on. Now, in the upper, there's a copper tube, and you can look and you'll see the copper tube that goes into this. This is where the water comes out and goes up to the engine. So this little white tube here, that's just an alignment sleeve. The copper tube pipe will go into this sleeve and then into a little rubber seal. So I'm going to take a little soapy water and spray it in there so that the copper tube slides into that rubber a little easier. Once we get this thing all tightened back down, don't go crazy, just snug it down. We're going to take this black ring that comes in the new kit that gets slid over and then pushed all the way down. Alright, now once I tighten this down, I'm going to push that back down some more. Don't forget the screw. It's simple stuff, guys, but this is how it's done. I do not recommend you guys use an impact. This is just a little baby impact, and I've done this a bazillion times, so I know what I'm doing with it. But don't use an impact. This is plastic. It's soft. It's delicate. Just use hand wrenches. And I'll push this down, snug, and that's it. We're done. We're gonna make sure your oil passage O-ring is in place that we talked about. That's good. We sprayed everything with soapy water, so it's all well lubricated. We're gonna just carefully put the upper back on and guide the copper tube into this water tube, and then we might have to turn the input shaft a little bit to line the splines up. So just grab your drive shaft on your upper, just turn that a little bit, you'll see it'll drop right down in place. Just gonna have to line things up, use your studs as guides, line things up. Now this, we took it off as it was in forward, So it should still be in forward. I'm going to turn the prop when you're, no, it's not. So what we're going to have to do is turn this shift shaft with a pair of pliers. No, I can do it with my fingers. Turn it, if you're looking down on that shift shaft, you want to turn it clockwise, right? Clockwise. That would make that shift shoe go straight, like we talked about when removing the outdrive. So we're going to turn this clockwise if you're looking down at it, and you're going to rotate the prop. When looking at the prop, you're going to rotate that counterclockwise. That locks it, right? That locks the dog clutches in there. So now we're in forward. We know we're in forward. And if you were to turn this drive shaft really hard, you would see that the prop shaft would then turn to propel you forward through the water. All right, but just make sure that this is in forward. Grab the prop, or you're turning this clockwise, grab the prop and turn that counterclockwise, and it's locked. All right, now if I were to turn this back just a little bit, now I'm in neutral again. If I turn it counterclockwise, I can tell the prop we're in neutral. If I keep going counterclockwise, the prop will then lock up clockwise. That means we're in reverse. So then we're going to turn this shift shaft all the way clockwise so that the prop locks up counterclockwise. Now we're in forward. Don't move the prop because that will take you back out of gear. So when we put the upper back onto the lower, we need to make sure that the shift shoe in the upper is straight, right? Everything's got to be straight and in forward. When everything is straight, that means it's in forward. So we're going to have to line up the splines on the shift shoe to the shift shaft and have everything be forward. And then carefully line everything. Now this isn't easy, right? I struggle with this, getting everything lined up all at the same time. But you got to use a flashlight, look in there, make sure your copper tube goes into place, make sure that the drive shaft goes into the drive shaft where it goes in the upper, and you can use a flashlight. Familiarize yourself. Just look at everything really close, make sense of it, and know what you're doing here a little bit. So we're going to drop the upper back onto the lower, all right? Okay, so I'm just gonna try to line everything up here best I can. Make sure that shift shoe is straight. Looking through this exhaust hole here. Okay, my copper tube is in my white sleeve, and drive shaft looks like it's gonna go. I must be on some studs here, so I'm going to look around. Okay. Alright, there it goes. And the drive's falling off the cart now. Wonderful. Okay. Now, this is the point where I'm going to turn the drive shaft. I'm going to look, though, make sure that my shift shoe is lined up onto the spline shift shaft, and make sure everything else looks good. It does. I'm going to turn this input shaft a little bit, and it should drop down. There it goes. I felt it drop down. So now we're all the way down. Now we're going to confirm that it's still in forward. So that shift shoe is facing straight, all right? And I'm going to grab the prop and move counterclockwise with the prop. From looking at the back of the boat, counterclockwise, it's locked up, and you can see the input shaft will turn when I turn the prop counterclockwise, hard. You can see the input shaft once, so it's in forward. Now if I turn the input shaft, looking at the input shaft, if I turn that clockwise, it moves the prop and propels you forward. So let's just turn this shift shoe just a little bit counterclockwise. That would be neutral. And there we have it. We're in neutral. We'll keep going counterclockwise. We're in reverse, back to neutral, and back to forward. So now it's locked. The shift shoe is straight. It's locked in. The prop is locked when I try to go counterclockwise with the prop. So we're good. There's no seam. You look at the seam under here. We're flat all the way. We're going to have to raise it back up a whisker to get the nuts on these studs, but that's fine. Everything's lined up right now. We're happy. We're going to raise up the upper just a whisker to get these nuts back on. Put them back on. Tighten them down. These two studs right here. I'm going to double check what we just double checked and make sure we're good before I go putting the rest of the nuts and bolts back together. And that's it, guys. I mean, that's really pretty easy to do. Just gotta make sense of it, just like anything else. Alright guys, so our upper is back down on the lower. We made sure that we were in forward gear by turning clockwise on this shift shaft, looking down at it, turning clockwise, and making sure that the prop locks counterclockwise, looking at the prop from behind. Make sure you grab that prop, turn counterclockwise while turning clockwise on the shift shaft. Okay, so it's locked, it's straight, we're in forward. We're gonna have to use a screwdriver and put it in between the top of the stud here on these side ones and just pry it back up a little bit. Just a little bit there so that we can get the nuts started, okay? And then we'll put it on and get that tightened down. While we got the drive off, now you can cheat. You don't have to remove this drive to do a water pump impeller. You can tilt the drive all the way up, leave it on the bolt, tilt it all the way up, and remove these nuts as we did and just drop the lower unit off. You can do that, I've done that plenty of times, but it's a good opportunity to take the drive off, and it makes it a lot easier to set everything back down if you're not familiar with how it goes. But it's a good opportunity to take the drive off. Grease your U-joint bearing, cross bearings. Don't go crazy, but squirt a little in there until you see a little come out. Make sure that it doesn't bind at all, that everything is nice and smooth. There's this ring here, make sure that's not loose or nothing's damaged. Give it a once over. Remove these O-rings on the shaft if they're bad. The new drive install kit will have new ones in it. You can remove them and clean off the shaft really good, and then clean in between each one of these splines. I'll take a flat blade screwdriver and a rag and just clean out each groove one at a time. All right, we'll clean that up and then put some new grease on it. We'll also take a scraper if we need to get the rest of this drive install gasket off and make sure everything's clean.